Okay, so we have a um, a goal for this first class, at least, to do whatever we might be doing without the need of extra props or equipment. Certainly, that's one of the advantages to yoga in general. There's very little equipment needed, and you can do almost anything without extra equipment. But in the yoga realm, we call them props. And you see around me here a variety of props that I might encourage you to explore if you have any in future classes. Don't worry about it for today, but a bolster of some sort. I've got two different thicknesses of bolster here. I've got a yoga block. Sometimes we use a fit ball, but that's only if everyone has one. But these are some of the things that I'd love for you to let me know in future classes if you have these available, and then we might make use of them. But for today, don't worry about it. Let's just start where we always will begin, and that is sitting comfortably, whether on your chair. If sitting on the floor is indeed comfortable for you, you're not feeling like you're straining to sit there, then that is perfectly fine. Either way, I want you to be able to sit up as tall as you can, and then let's get right into the awareness of your breath as it is happening. A full inhalation and a complete exhalation. Notice how it feels for you. Every breath cycle. What parts of your body are obviously moving as you take this inhalation and this exhalation. If your breath is pretty isolated up in the upper regions of the lungs, it might be a little more shallow than if you're able to take deep, fuller breaths that we sometimes will call belly breaths, or more formally diaphragmatic breathing. We will practice that as we go along, but for right now, I want you just to be able to get in touch with how your body is breathing in this moment and really get into that, how it's happening in this present moment. So not only are we tuning into one of the most foundational aspects of any well-designed mindful movement and yoga class, but we're also coming more and more into the present moment. Present moment awareness is another one of the functional abilities that I want you to maintain, again, so you will maintain your independence. It helps to keep you safer, more aware of your body, and being able to honor what it needs in any given moment. That requires the capacity to be in the here and now with your awareness. We call that mindfulness. It's a great time to tune into your body and notice if there are any parts that are talking to you, letting you know, wow, I'm feeling especially something in this particular area or another. If there's pain anywhere, this is where you want to make note of that, not to be critical or get negative about that, but to know that is very, very important information that your body is sharing with you so that you can honor it as we go through this practice today. If you find that you're straining to be in the position that you are in at the moment, change your position. Always empower yourself to modify and make adjustments at any time so that your body feels more like, yes, I'm here, this is good. And if you encounter places or positions that are anything other than that, let's go about the business of modifying, even just very subtly. Sometimes all it takes, just a slight adjustment in a leg position, shoulder position, your posture, any of those can change how you're feeling in any given moment. So I encourage you to explore those options here and now as we take a few more full and complete mindful breaths. And then we'll be starting to also become aware of some of the extremities in our bodies. Let's start with our hands. Hold them out here in front of you if possible. And let's make some tight fists and then stretch those fingers all back out again. Fists, stretch out, fists. Now let's try for alternating. One side you're fisting, the other side you're extending and going back and forth. You could even turn this into a bit of an arm curl if that feels right for you. or you can keep it just a little more isolated out here in front of you. Just a couple more times, please. Excellent. Now, stretch all those fingers back out and bring your palms together out in front of you somewhere, and let each hand help the other one out, getting full extension through your fingers and your thumbs if it's not painful. And then you're going to lightly press the palms together as you sit up even more tall and lengthened through your torso and spine. Take a nice full inhalation. And as you exhale, lower the arms on down and maybe give them a little bit of a shake out. From there, let's do some shoulder rolls. Nice, gentle swirling of your shoulders around in the most complete range of motion that feels good to you. Also, try to incorporate nice, deep, full breaths along with these shoulder movements. And then finally, we'll take a pause somewhere and go the other direction. This one is kind of like you're doing the backstroke. And if your shoulders feel quite good so far in everything we've explored, maybe you can make it a little bigger by leading with your elbow. And then also adding in another great extension and stretch and mobility factor, taking those deep, full, complete breaths. Couple more times around here. Excellent. And then lower your arms on down to the sides. You can shake them out all the way from the shoulders, all the way down through the hands and even the fingers. And then I'd like to bring some attention into our feet. So if you're sitting on the chair, you can use the surface beneath your feet to lift your heels and then lift your toes as much as you can. If you're sitting on the floor, you could either stretch your legs out in front of you a bit more, or just any degree of mobility that you can activate through your lower legs, ankles, feet, and of course, don't forget the toes. In fact, that's what I'm doing right here. I'm lifting my toes up a little bit away from the floor so I can really move through each one of them, observe what you are able to do. Again, not with a critical eye, but with like enhancing your awareness throughout your body so that, again, you can translate that into wisdom that will help you honor you and your body in everything that you do. Now, if all that has felt good, maybe we can alternate from right to left side. One side, the heel is lifted, while the other side, your toes are lifted. This right here is a functional movement. It's an kind of an exaggerated form of the necessity that the body needs to walk effectively. You need to be able to flex each foot effectively so you don't trip over your toes. And you also need to feel that mobility through the lower legs and ankles so that you can get a real complete walking stride, especially if you're taking nice long strides like I'd like you to. Good. And then let's incorporate the arm curls along with your heel lifts, alternate arm curls along with these heel lifts. And then, depending how things are feeling, maybe you can also incorporate marching steps. So when you're marching, lifting one leg, the other arm will curl. Marching, marching, marching. Notice how you are toned more throughout your abdominals and your hip flexors, which are some of the very important muscles and connective tissues that I call the deep core. Deep core stabilization. Deep core engagement is another central factor that you'll hear us come back to time and again. Why? Because this is a very important functional ability for just about anything that you may be doing. Any of your transitions that take you from a lower position to a higher position and vice versa. Anything even slightly athletic or complex movements, you really want to have the strength for deep core engagement, and then ultimately balance when you're upright and moving around. All right, so let's take a pause for now in that movement. Plant your feet, sit up nice and tall. Let these relax just a little bit as you take at least 3 full complete breaths, belly breaths if possible. Very good. And then as you continue with those belly breaths, let's just turn the head. This is another functional movement here. Keep your shoulders squared off, but turn your head. And we're not just turning the head to stretch and release tension from the neck. We're also going to activate important eye visual capabilities. That means so when you're turning over to one side, look that direction as far as you can, up and out. And then slowly turn your head to look the other way. Again, gaze the eyes as far that way and up as you can. We'll do that 1 or 2 more times, and feel free to mindfully blink your eyes in between as you turn to look, because having comfortably moist eyes is really important whenever you're doing any eye exercises such as this. We also know now from doctors, eye doctors, they're seeing a lot more people and younger people than ever with eye conditions and problems, all stemming from not blinking enough. It's probably because of our technological age and so many screens that we are viewing. Either way, it is affecting our overall eye health. So we practice mindful blinking to override that. Okay, when you're complete with both those side turns, square off, point the nose straight on ahead. We're going to place hands on your pelvic crests here, and we're going to do any degree of pelvic tilt that you can find that is some unique mobility here that we are exploring. Some of it is in the hip joints. A lot of it is in the low back, from the lumbar spine down into the pelvis at the sacrum. We want to mobilize these areas. We will be exploring a number of different ways of doing this particular exercise. And eventually, I'd like for it to include the entirety of your spine. So as you tilt your pelvis back, you're also tucking your chin down and in, and even kind of drawing your shoulders forward. That's a rounding extension of the back body we call cat pose. And then the opposite, tilting the pelvis forward, I bring my hands up close towards the upper thighs, squeezing my shoulder blades back a little bit and in as I look up. So that's that expansion and extension of the front body. The spine especially is very, very nourished in many beneficial ways from doing this type of movement. I suggest to my clients doing some version of this every day. Couple more. Hope that you're breathing along with this. And then finally, you'll land into what feels like neutral pelvis. Neutral pelvis for you, you're not tilted back, you're not overly tilted forward, you're right solidly in the center. That means your sits bones, the bony bones of your, the lower part of your pelvis are pointing straight down into the chair or the seat beneath you. Again, sitting up nice and tall with that. Let's reach the arms out. We can keep it at a lower angle for the start here. We're keeping long and lengthened in the spine as we slowly rotate around, just using your body's internal stabilizers to find a safe degree of rotation. If your arms and shoulders are happy with it, maybe you can reach them out wide apart. If you're like me and you've got furniture or walls close by, you could bend at the elbows and maybe you can clear, staying wide open across the chest and shoulders and rotating around a few more times. Slow and controlled, deliberate movements, of course, very mindful. And then eventually let's square off back to center. Inhale, reach those arms out in any direction you can. Exhale to lower on down. Shake out or roll out all that you can here. Excellent. Okay, so next we're going to go right on into another really important functional ability, and that is engaging through the deep core, using your body's positioning to stand up and then to slowly and controlled sit back down. Stand up, sit down is part of almost everything I do, or some element of it. Why? Because this is very important functional movement that you want to maintain so you can maintain your independence. First, knowing where you are on your chair seat. And if you're far back on it, I'd suggest scooching yourself forward a lot more on the front part of the chair, and then reposition your feet so that they are not too far out in front of your knees. If anything, the knees might be a little bit over your toes, and you want your feet to be at least hips width apart. Remember, the wider that a base is, the more stable it will be. And when you're going to come to a full standing position, you want to be stable. So hips width or wider, symmetrically placed. Sitting upright nice and tall, and we're going to retone and engage through what I call the deep core. And one of the best ways to make sure that that is happening is to slowly rock forward, up, and any degree of backward lean with length, with strength, so that you don't have any pain or strain in your back. If you do, make it more subtle. Okay, so that's an important functional ability right there. It's also what's going to help you get your initial boost when it's right for you to boost yourself a little bit out of your chair seat and just hold that squat. Hold that squat. If you need to return to your chair seat, you know it's right there, hasn't gone anywhere. You can come down anytime you need to if you're feeling steady. If you can hold this here a little bit longer, maybe put your hands on your thighs, or you may have seen in traditional yoga classes, arms extended out in front to some degree, chair pose, squat, make sure you're really utilizing those deep core muscles. And then I like to touch back and find, feel that my chair is there and then sit down nice and slow. I don't know about you, but I definitely felt those muscles engaged and maybe now a little bit fatigued from just holding that really important ability in your body, upper body, lower body, lots of things going on there. It's strengthening, but now that you've experienced that, you will know when it might be the right time for you to come from that chair pose squat to a full standing position. Standing in mountain pose, another really important traditional yoga pose, but for good reason. If you feel strong and steady, you can reach the arms up towards the ceiling, but then we're going to slowly bend the knees and ease back into that chair pose squat. Feel free to reach back with your fingertips. Just know your chair is there and sit down nice and slow. Let's do a few more if this feels right for you. If it doesn't, stay with the rocking motion and maybe even just that little bit of a boost out of your chair and return back down to it. That in itself will be very beneficial, but if you can do the full stand up, maybe even reaching the arms up, that's optional of course, and then slow and controlled sit back down. Now, even though this might feel a little bit more like a stabilizing or strengthening exercise, it is also a good amount of mobility that is required to do this in the slow, safe, controlled way. So feeling through your body what is right for you. Remember, if you're encountering pain in anything, then that's your body telling you, pay attention and let's find a modification. Something that will indeed bring you into your fullest pain-free range of motion. A couple more times if you like. Inhaling as you stand up, reaching up. Exhale as you slow and controlled sit back down. Beautiful job. One more time, please. Excellent. Okay, and go ahead and sit on back down. And since I can only see two of you, and you guys are looking great, by the way, I'm going to suggest that for the next one that we actually come up and stay standing. And I'd like you to utilize your chair for a little balance support. So we might be changing our positioning a little bit here. So if you choose to do this, make sure that you are stable and steady. And then if you choose to stay standing, you want at least one hand on a sturdy support prop, like your chair or a countertop or something. Then you can also give yourself permission to stay in your chair or come back to it at any time. I'm going to go through the steps once again, knowing where my feet are, a few strong rocking motions, and then when I feel ready, giving that boost out of the chair, a little bit of a chair pose squat, knowing I'm strong and steady, standing up tall. Before going anywhere, if possible, just separate your feet a little bit wider apart and do a little side lunge, bending a bit into your right knee and then into your left knee, strong and steady. Good. Rhythmic movement, crossing the midline, all very, very good for the nervous system, and you're enhancing your mobility, especially in the hips here. Okay, coming back to a centered position, get your feet back underneath you, so hips width apart or so, and then come into a position with your chair that you can have at least one hand on that chair, helping you for some balance support. You can even be facing your chair with both hands on it. Even if some of you might have a walker, that's another thing you can bring in, put the brakes on. That's another great balance support. Very good. Okay, so testing our balance a little bit here. Let's do a standing on one leg, which could be very minor, just barely lifting the other foot up off the floor, testing it out. Maybe at some point you can lift your hand off that balance support, but you don't need to. Just testing it out, taking some breaths, using your arms to help with balance. And then when you feel like you've gotten a good read on what that feels like on that particular side, let's try it on the other side. Taking a strong stance with the standing leg, and then again, it can just be a slight lift of the other foot off the floor. You can even kind of dab the toes down if needed. Excellent. Well done. Okay, great job. Placing that foot on down when you feel complete, of course. Coming back to mountain pose, standing. And again, this could be seated as well. Seated mountain pose, long length of spine, just as we are doing standing. And then let's try to go back to that first standing leg. And if it's comfortable for you to come underneath the lifted leg with one hand and just slightly guide that leg out and again forward to any degree. If you want to keep it lower, feel free. That might be better for some people's hips. Some might be able to bring it up higher. And you're just exploring what is going to be the best thing for you here. A couple more times. Excellent. And then bringing that leg forward and on down. Take about 3 breaths here as you come back to your mountain pose. Notice the sensations in both sides of the body. They might be very different from one side to the other. And then we'll try it to the other side. Now, if you're like me and you've got your balance support right off to one side, if you're going to get much hip mobility between yourself and the chair, I'd say turn around maybe. And now your standing leg is the one closer to the chair. And then you can have more room to move out and in with the opposite leg. Good. So get creative. You can keep the leg lower. Or again, if you have your hand on the balance support prop, bring your hand under the leg if possible and moving out and in to whatever degree you can. Very good. Okay, just a few more. Excellent. And then bringing that leg straight forward once again and lowering back down. 3 full breaths back in mountain pose. Good. Some people say, oh, it's like you're standing like you're in the military, but really this is more like standing with purpose, standing with intention. You are rooted and grounded deeply through your legs, through your feet. And I like to imagine that you're actually going rooted down into the earth in a really beneficial and supportive way. Your deep core is engaged, helping you maintain neutral pelvis, strongly engaged neutral pelvis in your standing position and with as much length through the spine. Chin is parallel to the floor. Shoulders, if possible, a little bit more in the back and down position, but not like militaristic. Very good. Excellent. Okay, keeping that nice rootedness down through your legs and feet, or if you're still in a chair seated, keep your hips and sits bones equally rooted in the chair. And if you can, I have my left hand on my balance support. So I'm going to start with my right arm going up towards the ceiling, finding your breath in a nice extension. And then if it feels good, keeping rooted down through both legs equally, let's reach overhead toward whatever your standing support prop side is. Mine's to the left, so side body opening stretch. Really want to be able to keep these ribs mobile and able to stretch and move for our deep full breaths. And then just this position, being able to reach and extend through at least one arm as fully and completely as possible. That's an important functional ability right there. So working with that and then making more of that side body stretch as it feels good to you. When you're ready, fully elongating back up, and as you exhale, lower that arm on down. Take a few moments, again, mountain pose, pretty balanced out. And again, if you're like me, you want to turn around so that now the opposite hand can be on your sturdy support prop or change your positioning or change your furniture if needed. So I'm going to pretend that my sturdy support prop is here. My hand is on it. I'm equally rooted down through both legs. Feet, hips, and pelvis are pretty balanced. Reaching up with the opposite arm, full inhale. And if everything's feeling good and steady, keep breathing as you reach overhead. We call this half moon pose in some traditions. It's more like a crescent moon if you ask me. But really, I mean, as far as direct translation, this is a side body opening stretch and emphasizing the extension out of this arm and the shoulder. That's the most important functional ability here that we're exploring, being able to reach as much as you can, but the side body opening, extra little mobility stretch, allowing more room for your lungs to expand, overriding any chronic tightness. And then finally, we'll inhale up through the length of the spine. And when you're ready, exhale, lowering that arm on down. And again, taking a few nice full breaths back at your center, balanced equally from right to left. Awesome. Okay, from here, I want to explore going back to mobility more as our focus. So either coming back to the seat of your chair, or if you are liking being on the floor, more comfortable on the floor, you can start to make your way down there. I'll join you in a few minutes after I demonstrate what the option is for anybody that wants to stay in their chair. It's the figure 4 pose. All about hip mobility, but for a very important functional reason. So I'll have you all start with your right leg, giving it support underneath with your hand, going out and in a few times just to prep that hip. And then when you're ready, bringing the leg forward, sliding your left hand down toward your shin, trying to slide it from your knee towards your shin, and then maybe to your ankle, guide that right knee out to the side, and possibly connect and rest your right foot on your left thigh, kind of close to the knee. Here you're going to explore different angles. If you have knee pain, try angling it up a little bit more. If you have ankle pain, maybe help to signalize that a bit more. If you have grinding or pain or pressure in your hip, you want to explore different angles with the knee more out and then maybe a bit more in. But either way, you're exploring until you can find a comfortable position. Hip opening is #1 goal, but a stretch through this outer thigh, IT band, hip area, and maybe even into that low back sacral area. Those that would like to be on the floor instead will all probably come to the floor eventually, so don't feel like you have to rush your way down there just yet. But for those that like the floor, I can tell there's at least a few of you, you'll be laying on your back, and the same kind of thing, lifting up your right leg, connecting the outer foot on your left thigh close to the knee, and just as I had demonstrated in the seated position, you can angle the knee more up and in. It'll be a different quality of stretch. See if it's comfortable for you or feels better for you, or guiding that knee more out to the side, taking full, complete breaths. For those of you seated in the chair, if you want to increase the stretch, take a bit of a forward fold, a little more of a forward fold over your legs. Just go slowly and carefully so that you don't overstretch. It's pretty easy to do there. So take it slow. Those of us on the floor, if this is comfortable, your right knee is out to the side without any pain in the hip, the knee, or the ankle. You're not getting too much of a stretch just yet. So what you could do is pick your left foot up off the floor, reach your hands around behind your left thigh, and very gently guide the legs in a little bit closer towards your chest. You probably won't need to go very far at all before you really feel the stretch. I'm pretty flexible in these ways myself, and even I don't need to go very far here before it's like, okay, that is fine. Remember that your body has a lot of really great internal resources, like a protective locking down or contraction, that when it feels like it might be getting into an overstretched position, or if it doesn't feel safe, that's another time the body just will naturally want to tense up. in self-protection. We want to prevent that reaction. We want to let the body feel safe and well supported. Taking deep, full breaths will definitely also contribute to your body being able to receive a deeper stretch when it feels safe, when it feels right. And that's kind of what we want to be exploring. Anytime you try to force your body into a deeper position in a stretch, most likely you're going to get a self-protected contraction, which is the opposite of really what we're going for here. Okay, when you feel ready, we'll switch on over to the other side. You can be seated, sitting up tall, pick up your left knee, foot, and angle the leg out. I like to start with the right hand kind of sliding down the shin so you can get a close grab around the ankle, and then support it as it slowly comes to the opposite knee. Or if that is not a good position, if you've gotten pain in your knee, your hip, then there are options such as if you were on the floor, you could do keeping the foot on the floor, but just open that knee out to the side instead. So that's the option. If you're sitting in the chair, I'll demonstrate real quick here. And your body gives you the guidance that, whoa, being all the way up here with that ankle or foot causes pain, pressure in any of these joints. Then if you have extra props or a little footstool or something like that, bringing that underneath the foot and guiding the knee out, keeping the angle here lower or less. So you can do that either on your back or sitting in the chair. You can still even go for a bit more of a forward fold if it feels right, or if you're on the floor, you can stay relaxed as possible, pick up your right foot, grab a hold behind with your hands, and guide the legs in a little bit closer. Be careful though with all of this. Remember your heightened body awareness, being here in the present moment, is so important for you to maintain safety and just go to those places that are really beneficial for you. If you go into the mind's tendency of comparing or just expecting like, oh yeah, I did this last week, I can just throw myself into this and expect it to be just like it was, things change. I think you all know that by now. Things change from day to day, month to month, year to year. So we want to go into each of these practices with a brand new, fresh awareness of what's going on in the here and now, and be with your body in that supportive, compassionate way so that you're not going with expectation or some form of competition. Certainly your body is probably different than mine, so you're searching out what is really best for you in each and every moment. So we are exercising the mind in very productive ways in addition to moving and being in the physical body. A few more breaths to enjoy whatever this figure 4 is on the side for you. Taking nice, full, complete breaths. And when you feel complete, you can stay longer anytime you want to. Certainly you can come out sooner if you ever feel you need to. But when you feel complete and ready, let's lower left foot back on down to the floor, whether you're sitting in the chair or lying on your back with your feet planted, knees bent, obviously, feet planted on the floor. Take a few full, complete breaths. If you're on the floor, reach up and overhead with both of your arms, and either one leg at a time can really stretch out all over the floor, or both legs at the same time. If you're sitting in the chair, just try to recline back into the back of the chair as much as you can. Try to reach your arms up and out, and just like on the floor, try extending at least one leg out or both legs out as much as you can, and take deep, full breaths. Full body extension. This is certainly a mobility thing that we need to be focused on every day. We spend most of our time kind of more in a sitting or hunched over position. We need to do some very specific exercises or poses, if you will, that counter that. So full body extension, one of my favorites. I recommend doing this every day before you get out of bed. Is a great time to do it. But if you can be on a real firm, flat surface that is got some extra extension benefits to it. So if it's comfortable for you to be on the floor doing that, taking at least 3 full complete breaths, and then lower your arms down to a comfortable position next to you. If you're sitting in the chair, sit upright once again, and both of us will be bending the knees to plant the feet on the floor again. Now we're going to do something that's compressing, but also very good at a stretch for the back and the hips, maybe even the hamstrings. That is going to be, and I'll go down to the floor to demonstrate this first, but I think it'll be obvious, your modification in the chair, very similar. So hugging either one knee in towards your chest as much as you can, or if it's comfortable, hug both knees in. Those of you sitting on the chair, you'll probably just want to stick with one knee at a time, keeping one foot planted on the floor. But if it feels good for those of you on the floor, hugging both knees in towards the chest, taking full, complete breaths. And then here you can be a little playful if everything is feeling good. You could do a little side-to-side rocking, just a very slight bit here. That will give you a bit of a massage, perhaps, in the low back sacral area. Also, it can be a nice challenge for your deep core because you can play with your tipping point and go almost to your tipping point and then try to pull yourself back to center and do that to each side. That's good for our vestibular system, knowing where your body is in space, especially as you move out from your center, and then having the ability, the awareness, and then the strength to come back to center. And then if you've done some traditional yoga before, you might have encountered happy baby pose. Requires quite a lot of hip mobility, but you'll be flexing your feet so that they're angled towards the ceiling. Your knees are bent in towards your shoulders. You're just reaching up as far as you can. And again, a little side to side rocking. This is why they call it happy baby. We probably all did this when we were infants and babies, and certainly we've seen many little ones doing something like this before if it feels good. Another option is keeping the feet down on the floor and just very slowly and gently drifting your legs off to one side and then the other. Explore, find what feels best for you. Very good. And then finally, we'll come back to a resting position, centered, squared off, symmetrical from your right to left sides, both knees bent, feet planted, if that feels good. But at any point in time, if you're in a good position, do another full body stretch out, countering the flexion that the front body was in before. And now let's go for extension, either one side at a time or both at the same time. And then finally, lowering the arms down to a comfortable position, bending your knees, planting your feet to the floor. I'd like to get into some inner thigh stretch and mobility here next. Number one, a suggestion is butterfly pose if you're on the floor. I'll give you a demonstration for the chair option here in a moment, but butterfly pose, the feet come close together, maybe even the bottoms of your feet together if you've got that hip mobility, and the knees go out in opposite directions. Some people find it difficult to do both legs at the same time, so you could extend one leg out straight and just open one knee out at a time. Inner thigh more here is what we're going for. Now, some people, we all have different hip structures, so there may be different angles that you might need to explore to really get into your inner thigh groin area here. So explore, you've got time. Certainly if you're doing a one side at a time approach, then try to spend equal amounts of time on each side. Now, those of you staying in the chair, that can be a little more tricky, and it may end up looking a little bit more like a wide squat stance. So when you're sitting upright, separating your feet nice and wide, knees pointing out in opposite directions, and just trying to get a stretch coming through here as is comfortable for you. No pain in the knees or the hips, of course, sitting tall. Now, another one, if you're sitting in the chair or more upright, One foot stays planted, the other leg might extend out in the opposite direction as much as it can. That can also bring in the inner thigh better for you. Breathing nice, full and complete breaths. Very good. Now find a completion so that whatever you've done on one side, you've done about the equal amount on the other side. Give yourself more time if you need it. Good. And then eventually finding your way back to a squared off or symmetrical position in your body. Both knees bent, feet planted will probably be a nice thing for here. Okay, now back to a little bit more of an upper body focus. I want you to first reach your arms either straight up towards the ceiling. Well, how about for either one? If you're on the floor, straight reach up towards the ceiling. If you're in the chair, you can also reach up towards the ceiling as is comfortable. But then from there, we're going to go to a wide open arm position. So if you're sitting upright, try leaning back into your chair and opening out as wide as you can. If you're on the floor, reach those arms out and all the way down onto the floor if possible. So we're really expanding and opening here. This is also an important functional ability because it helps you maintain the length and the openness across the chest and shoulders that allows for your lungs to more fully expand. So breathing, especially deepening respiration, being able to take full, complete breaths, requires that you are able to be somewhat open here. As opposed to the tendency as we age is for the shoulders to cave inward. We get overly tight here and fairly weak, so it becomes impossible at some point to really open here and bring the shoulders back slightly. And this obviously really condenses the chest. So then we're talking about the lungs being able to fill adequately. So adequate oxygenation being able to come through the body is compromised. And also it's a pressure in on your heart as well. But when we can be open and expansive here through the front of the chest, across the chest and shoulders, we are helping your body breathe more effectively and efficiently. You are helping to maintain the ability of your body to be upright, to draw your shoulders more back, counteracting the tendency as we age to have things hunching forward and down. So really enjoy that opening. Now, here is maybe a less obvious functional movement, but nonetheless, finger and hand dexterity. So whether your arms are out on the floor, they're way out next to you, or you've chosen a more comfortable position for them to be in, I'd like you just to move through each of your fingers individually. So you feel whatever each joint of each finger is able to do. Good. So you kind of bring awareness, even if you can't see them, that's actually kind of an added bonus here. You are really activating brain, nervous system connections. So you're not looking at your hands, you're feeling, you're sending that message to move through each finger, each one individually, and the thumbs. So you're keeping that strong line of communication from the brain all the way through the body into the hands, even the fingertips. Next, dexterity. We're going to try to touch your thumb to your first finger pad. So a little touch and then maybe even a press together, thumb to your first fingers, then stretch both that thumb and first finger out all the way. Then move to your middle finger. Thumb touches your middle finger. Maybe give it a little bit of a press if it's not painful, and then really extend that thumb and middle finger back out straight. Then touch to your middle finger, maybe a little bit of a press, and then really stretch back out. And then thumb comes to the pinky finger. It's a little more of a stretch, so make sure it's not painful. Touch, and then stretch back out. Maybe go back in reverse now. Thumb touches pinky, stretches back out. Thumb touches ring finger, stretches back out. Middle finger, stretch it out, and back to your first finger, and stretch it on out. Now, somewhat let your hands relax, and if it's possible, if you're laying on the floor, rotate your arms so that your palms are facing down, and then you have that nice passive support of the floor beneath your hands to maintain that extension through. Take a few more full, complete breaths. We have one more pose that I'd like to do. Again, very much in the mobility category, and very relaxing and soothing for a number of different bodily systems. This is the spinal twist. For those of you staying in the chair, sit up nice and tall, take a full complete breath, rotating through your central channel. You'll rotate your upper body, chest and shoulders towards one side, and support that with your hands. Not forcing yourself and wrenching yourself deeper into the twist, but helping to maintain the length of your spine and take deep, full belly breaths. Those of you on the floor, arms can stay outright, stretched long apart, and knees and feet close together. If there's other options that you know with spinal twist, there's a few different leg configurations, but this is probably the most basic and safe until you explore what your body needs. Drawing the knees off to one side, taking full and complete breaths. I would suggest at least 5 or 6 breaths on each side, unless you're feeling pain anywhere. Obviously, you want to come out, make it more subtle, or come out all together if there is anything painful. Eventually, when you feel complete on that side, we'll unwind the body back to your squared off centered position, make any little adjustments that you might need back at center, and then slowly ease those legs over to the other side. Or of course, if you're sitting in the chair, you're rotating your upper body, chest and shoulders around to the opposite side. Either way, maintain the length of your spine, take deep, full, complete breaths. This is massaging and supportive for digestion. This is obviously getting some effective stretch into certain back muscles, obliques, the side abdominal muscles, and at least through low back. Maybe some are feeling it in other areas that you might be holding tension, chronic tension that you may not have known about. It can be very soothing for the nervous system as well, if you're taking those nice full deep breaths. When you feel complete on that second side of yours, bringing the legs back to center or unwinding your upper body back to center, taking a few moments to readjust any little positioning adjustments here, and then we'll spend just a couple minutes in as much of a relaxed position as can be for you. So let your body decide whether you're in the chair or on the floor. Do you want to stretch out again? Does that feel really comfortable? Do you want to bring those arms out wide apart again? Do you want to keep your knees bent and your feet planted, or can you stretch them out? Some people might even be more comfortable lying on their side, maybe grabbing a pillow if you have one close by, and let this be as comfortable for your body as it can be. Those of you in the chair, do the same, kind of, reclining back and providing comfortable support as is best for you. It's often an exploration that if you don't land on just the right thing this time, keep coming back, practicing with me. You'll have many more opportunities to find the best way of supporting your body for this all-important practice of conscious relaxation. This is in a very abbreviated version of this today, but if you ever come to my other classes, I teach virtual online classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12:45 to 2:15. One of the reasons for the extended length of that class, each one of those classes, is a more extended time in this really important practice of conscious relaxation. This one here today, we'll just keep it real brief, but as I encourage all of my clients, Feel free to stay in this position longer, even after I might be bringing the class to a close. If you are feeling nourished and knowing that this is a very beneficial thing for you to spend a little more time in, then please do so. That's one of the advantages of these virtual programs. You're there in the comfort of your home, and you can attend to what your body needs easily at any given time. Let's take about 3 or 4 more deep, full breaths. And in these breaths, you might add in a powerful mantra or affirmation you silently will say as you inhale, opening up, and as you exhale, letting go. With every breath cycle, you are opening up and letting go of anything you don't need to be dragging along anymore. Opening up to receive the many blessings in your life, full of gratitude, loving kindness. Every exhalation, letting go of physical tension, emotional stress, resistances in the mind. Those can all be let go. A few more times, please. And as I said before, you are so welcome to stay with this practice right where you are, relaxed, centered, receiving all the many benefits of everything we have done here in this practice today, and receiving the benefits of mindful awareness and affirmation. And for those that want to stay in your relaxed position longer, you will be receiving more fully and completely the many benefits of conscious relaxation. But for those that need to wrap things up and move on to whatever's next in your day, you might begin to make your way up and into a more upright, comfortable position sitting on the floor. If that's where you are, it can be comfortable there. If you need to transition to a chair to be comfortable, please do so very slowly and deliberately. Use the furniture around you there so you can transition safely back to your chair. And here we will officially close out our practice in a traditional way that I try to close out all of my classes coming out of the yogic traditions. We will be joining the hands together one more time, lining up the fingers, the palms, and bringing them in close to the center of your heart or the center of your chest. This is the energetic heart center where we feel very connected to the healing energies of compassion and loving kindness and gratitude. And I thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. Namaste. Namaste, a Sanskrit word meaning the light within me honors and acknowledges the light within you. Namaste.